This program is a work of fiction. The station, broadcast, and events are not real and do not depict any actual emergency. Created for entertainment purposes only.
This is KQWL 1620 AM, Cold Harbor Emergency Relay Network, Tillamook County Perimeter, the Perimeter Broadcast. If you are hearing this transmission, emergency conditions are ongoing. Within the next several hours, the Coordination Office will stop using the word temporary. I want to document what happens between now and that moment. I want to begin with the first call, when the language was still small. It is now 2:17 a.m. Pacific. A fishing captain working the night run out of Garibaldi Harbor contacted the Coast Guard frequency 11 minutes ago to report that the moon had not moved. He stated that he had been watching it against his mast rigging since clearing the jetty at 12:40 a.m. and that in over 90 minutes of southward transit, the moon had not shifted position against the rigging by any visible amount. He reported clear skies, no fog, no obstructions. The moon was visible, full bright, and fixed in place as though pinned to the sky. The Coast Guard logged the report. They did not respond to it. I want to add one detail that makes this difficult to dismiss. The captain reported that his GPS-linked tide gauge had flatlined, not malfunctioned. Flatlined. The numerical readout had not changed in over an hour. The tide was mid-flood at 12:40 a.m. and should have risen approximately 14 inches by the time of his report. It had not risen at all. The water level was exactly what it had been when he departed. He described the harbor channel as impossibly still, like a lake, with no tidal current whatsoever. The Coast Guard has classified this as an instrumentation anomaly. The Regional Coordination Office has not been notified. No advisory is in effect. A second report reached his desk 4 minutes ago from a caller near Oceanside, south on the Cape Mears Loop. This caller states they were unable to sleep and stepped outside at approximately 1:50 a.m. They noticed the moon was in the same position it had been when they let the dog out at 11:45 p.m. the previous evening, over 2 hours. The same position relative to the roof line of a neighboring house. They described checking twice, using the chimney as a reference point, and being certain the moon had not moved. Officials are calling this a positional discrepancy in observed lunar transit. They are treating it as isolated, but we have two independent reports now, and the tide data from Garibaldi makes this harder to set aside than the language suggests. This is KQWL 1620 AM. We are continuing to monitor. It is now 2:28 a.m. I have received a third report, and I want to handle it carefully because it introduces a measurement that changes the scale of what we are tracking. A university-affiliated monitoring station on the northern coast, part of a tidal research consortium, has flagged an automated alert. Their continuous tide level sensors at 3 points along Tillamook Bay registered zero change in water level beginning at 12:38 a.m. Pacific. That is now 1 hour and 50 minutes of zero tidal motion. The system interpreted this as a sensor failure and triggered a diagnostic cycle. The diagnostics return clean. The sensors are functioning. The water is simply not moving. The monitoring station further reports that their lunar position tracking software, which logs the moon's azimuth and elevation at 60-second intervals, has recorded identical values for every entry since 12:37 a.m., 111 consecutive identical entries at the time of their report. The software flagged this as a tracking error at entry 40. It has continued logging identical values since. I need to be precise about what this means. This is not an eyewitness estimate. This is not a fisherman's impression. This is automated scientific instrumentation recording continuously that the moon is not moving and the tide is not cycling and has not been for nearly 2 hours. The monitoring station has contacted the Regional Coordination Desk. I am told the coordination desk has acknowledged the data, but has not yet changed its classification. They are still using the word discrepancy. They have asked the monitoring station to continue logging and to report again at the 3-hour mark. A caller from Tillamook proper, near the 9th Street Bridge, reports looking out a bedroom window and observing that the shadow cast by a streetlight pole has not moved since they first noticed it sometime before midnight. The shadow falls across the same section of sidewalk at the same angle without any change. The caller describes it as deeply strange. They state the shadow should have rotated noticeably over the hours they have been watching. It has not. I am noting this because it introduces something beyond tidal data. If the moon is not moving, then moonlight is arriving from a fixed angle, and shadows cast by that light would indeed remain stationary. This is consistent with the other reports. It is also, I want to note, extremely visible. Anyone awake tonight with moonlight entering a window would, if they watch long enough, be able to observe this themselves. The Coordination Office has not issued any public communication. No advisory is in effect for Tillamook County or any coastal area. It is now 2:41 a.m. Pacific. KQWL 1620 a.m. continuing. I have an update from the Coast Guard frequency that I want to relay. 2 additional vessel operators have now reported static tide conditions in the Garibaldi Channel and at the Barview Jetty approach. Both confirm zero tidal current and zero change in water level since their respective departures. One operator reports that crab pot buoys, which should be leaning with tidal flow, are hanging perfectly vertical in the water. No drift, no pull. The water is not moving in any direction. The Coast Guard has issued what they are calling an informational notice to mariners on the local frequency. It advises vessel operators that tidal predictions may be unreliable and exercise caution in shallow draft areas where expected depth may not have materialized. That is the extent of it. They are framing this as a prediction failure, not as an observation of something actually happening. I want to be transparent with you. There is a gap between what the data shows and what the language is willing to call it. The data shows the moon fixed in position and the tide stopped. The language says prediction unreliable and positional discrepancy. I am going to continue relaying both. You can hear the distance between them widening. We have now received a total of 9 calls on the station line in the last 20 minutes, all for within the county, all describing the same observation in different words. The moon has not moved. I am not going to relay each one individually because they are consistent. The observation is repeating. What I will note is that 2 of these callers independently describe trying to photograph the moon at different times and comparing images and finding them identical in terms of position against landmarks. These are not trained observers. These are people who notice something wrong and try to document it. I am waiting on the 3-hour mark report from the tidal monitoring station. That should arrive within the next 15 minutes. I will relay it when it does. This is KQWL 1620 AM, Cole Harbor Emergency Relay Network. It is 2:41 a.m. Pacific. The moon is visible at normal brightness and has not moved in approximately 2 hours. The tides have not cycled. No advisory is in effect. The desk is continuing. It is now 2:58 a.m. The 3-hour mark report from the tidal monitoring station has arrived, and I want to relay it in full because the language has shifted. The station confirms that as of 2:55 a.m. Pacific, their sensors have recorded zero measurable change in water level at all 3 Tillamook Bay monitoring points for a continuous period of 2 hours and 17 minutes. They further confirm that lunar position tracking continues to return identical values at every 60-second interval. Their report states that they have now eliminated all equipment-based explanations and are classifying the observation as a confirmed environmental anomaly. That is their language. Confirmed environmental anomaly, not instrument error, not prediction failure. Confirmed. The report includes one additional data point that I want to handle carefully. The station notes that barometric pressure, air temperature, and wind speed have all continued to fluctuate normally throughout the observation period. The atmosphere is behaving as expected. Weather systems are moving. Clouds, where present, are drifting. Everything in the sky is moving except the moon. The station's exact characterization, as relayed to me, is that the anomaly appears confined to the lunar body and its immediate gravitational influence on coastal water systems. I am not sure what confined means in a sentence like that. I am passing along as received. The Regional Coordination Desk has now updated their classification. They are no longer using discrepancy. The new language is unexplained sustained deviation in observed lunar position. I am told this classification was applied at 2:52 a.m. and has been communicated to the State Emergency Management Office. It is not an advisory. It is not a warning. It is a classification change. But it is the first time the word sustain appears in official language tonight, and I want to mark that. It is now 3:11 a.m. Pacific. KQWL 1620 AM, emergency desk. A caller from the Bayocene Peninsula, which sits on the west side of Tillamook Bay, reports something I have not heard in previous calls tonight, and I want to relay it with appropriate caution. This caller states that they walked to the bay shore at approximately 2:45 a.m. and observed the waterline. They state that the water's edge was in the exact same position as the last time they checked, which they believe was around 10 p.m. the previous evening, nearly 5 hours prior. That alone is consistent with other reports. But the caller adds this. They state that the surface of the bay was so still that they could see the moon's reflection with perfect clarity. No distortion, no ripple, no movement of any kind. They describe it as looking like a mirror laid flat. And they state that the reflected moon was in the same position in the water as the real moon was in the sky above, and that neither had moved in the time they watched, which they estimate as 20 minutes. I cannot verify the duration of that observation, but the description of absolute stillness on the water surface is consistent with what the Garibaldi vessel operators have reported. If there is no tidal current, no gravitational cycling, the bay would indeed approach a mirror state in calm conditions. I want to note one more thing about this call. The caller stated that the stillness was, in their words, wrong in a way that made their body respond before their mind did. They described a physical unease. I am noting this because the hospital monitoring line has also begun to show increased call volume, though I do not yet have details. I am expecting an update within the hour. It is now 3:24 a.m. This is KQWL 1620 AM. I need to relay something that changes the scope of what we are tracking tonight. The coordination desk has received confirmation from a national tracking facility, one of the primary bodies responsible for orbital monitoring in this country, that the moon's position as recorded by their systems has not changed since 12:37 a.m. Pacific, which correspond to 3:37 a.m. Eastern. Their systems show the moon at a fixed point in its orbital path. Velocity reads as 0, not near 0, not within some margin. 0. I am told the tracking facility initially treated this as a data pipeline failure and spent approximately 45 minutes cycling through diagnostic protocols before accepting the readings as genuine. They have since confirmed the data against 2 independent satellite-based measurement systems. All 3 show the same thing. The moon's orbital velocity is 0. It has not moved relative to Earth in approximately 2 hours and 47 minutes. The tracking facility has classified this as a critical observational event. I am told that phrase carries specific weight within their operational framework and triggers certain coordination protocols. I do not know what those protocols involve. I only know the classification was applied. I want to be clear about what I am relaying. A national-level tracking facility, using satellite instrumentation, has confirmed that the moon is not moving. This is no longer a coastal observation. This is no longer a Tillamook County report. This is a confirmed reading from orbital monitoring infrastructure. The moon has stopped. I do not have a softer way to say that. The institutions have softer language, but the data does not. The coordination desk has not yet updated its public classification to reflect the national confirmation. I am told there is a coordination call scheduled for 4 a.m. Pacific. I will relay whatever emerges from that call. I should also report that the tidal monitoring station has submitted an additional note. They state that their tide prediction models, which forecast water levels days in advance, are now showing what they call a divergence error. The predicted tide is continuing to rise and fall on its normal cycle. The observed tide is flat. The gap between predicted and observed is widening with every passing minute. At the time of their note, the predicted level was 11 inches above actual. By dawn, if the condition persists, the predicted level will be over 2 feet above actual at what should be morning high tide. I am told that this divergence, if it continues, will begin to affect navigation in shallow channels, stormwater infrastructure, and any system calibrated to expected tidal behavior. We are not there yet, but the timeline is becoming measurable. This is KQWL 1620 AM. It is 3:24 a.m. The moon has not moved in approximately 2 hours and 47 minutes. The condition has been confirmed at the national level. No advisory is in effect. The desk continues. It is now 3:41 a.m. Pacific. KQWL 1620 AM. Emergency desk continuing. The coordination desk has released what they are calling a preliminary situational summary. I am going to relay the substance of it. The summary confirms that the moon's orbital velocity is measured at zero since approximately 12:37 a.m. Pacific, as recorded by multiple independent systems. It confirms that tidal activity along the Oregon coast, and I note they have expanded the geographic language from Tillamook County to the Oregon coast, has ceased. It confirms that no causal mechanism has been identified, and it states, this is new, that partner agencies in Hawaii and the northeastern United States have been asked to provide independent verification. I want to note two things about that summary. First, the geographic expansion. We have gone from a local discrepancy to a coastal confirmation in under 2 hours. Second, the request for a partner verification from Hawaii and the Northeast. That tells me they already suspect this is not regional. If it were a Pacific phenomenon, the eastern seaboard would be unaffected. They are checking whether it is visible from the other side of the continent. I do not yet have the answer to that check, but the fact that they are asking is itself informative. The summary also includes one sentence I want to handle carefully. It states that the condition should be considered unexplained rather than instrumentation-based, and that response agencies should monitor for secondary effects. That is the first time the word effects has appeared in official language tonight. Until now, everything has been about the observation itself. Now they are pointing downstream. They are asking what happens next. A utility operations coordinator for the coastal district has contacted the desk. They report that their tidal-dependent systems, specifically stormwater outfall pipes that rely on tidal cycling to flush, have now been static for over 3 hours. They state that this is outside their design parameters. The systems are designed to handle a maximum of 90 minutes of slack tide. We are now more than double that. They are not yet seeing backflow or failure, but they state that if the condition persists through the expected morning high tide, approximately 7:40 a.m., they will need to activate manual pump systems in low-lying areas. They are beginning preparations now. That is the first infrastructure impact reported to this desk. It is now 3:54 a.m. Pacific. I am receiving a report from the Coastal Hospital that I want to relay. The emergency department reports a noticeable increase in walk-in presentations since approximately 2:30 a.m. They describe the cases as primarily anxiety, insomnia, and what they are calling somatic distress, which I am told means physical symptoms without clear medical cause. Patients are reporting chest pressure, a sense of wrongness, nausea, and difficulty identifying what woke them. Several patients told intake staff that they felt the night was lasting too long. The hospital notes that this is unusual volume for a weeknight at this hour and has added an additional nurse to the overnight rotation. I want to be careful here. I am not drawing a medical connection between the moon's position and these presentations. I am only noting that the hospital is seeing an increase in people presented with distress at the same time that the condition is occurring, and that some of those patients are articulating a sense that something is wrong with the night itself, without knowing what it is. That may be coincidence, but I am relaying it because the pattern is there, and because several callers to the station have described similar physical unease. The hospital has not been informed of the lunar situation by any official channel. They are treating patients as individual cases. It is now 4:07 a.m. Pacific, KQWL 16:20 a.m. I have two pieces of information that arrived in the last 10 minutes, and I need to relay both. First, the partner verification from Hawaii has come back. A tracking station there confirms the moon's position has not changed in their observations since the beginning of their evening shift. Their measurements are consistent with the national facilities data. Velocity zero, position fixed, confirmed from the mid-Pacific. Second, and this is the one I want to be careful with, the coordination desk has received an initial report unconfirmed from an international partner agency suggesting that observation facilities in Japan have noted the same condition. I am told this report came through a liaison channel and has not been formally verified. The desk is treating it as preliminary, but if it is accurate, it means the moon has stopped as observed from both sides of the Pacific. That will remove any remaining possibility of an atmospheric or regional optical explanation. You cannot have the same optical illusion in Oregon and Japan simultaneously. I am going to wait for confirmation before I change how I characterize this. But I want you to know the report exists. The coordination call scheduled for 4 a.m. is, I am told, still ongoing at this time. It has run past its expected window. I do not know what that means. It may mean there is disagreement. It may mean the scope of what is being discussed has expanded beyond the original agenda. I will relay the outcome when it is available. I should also note that the tidal divergence figure has continued to widen. The monitoring station reports a predicted level is now 16 inches above observed. The water that should be here is not here. The cycle that should be lifting the bay toward morning high is simply not occurring. Everything below the frozen waterline is behaving normally. Everything above it is empty space that should be full of ocean. I have one more caller report to relay before I pause for the coordination call outcome. A caller near Cape Lookout State Park reports that they were camping and woke at approximately 3:15 a.m. to use a restroom. They noticed the moon was in the same position as when they went to sleep at 11 p.m. They described the shadows across their campsite as identical. They stated it looked like time had stopped, except their watch was still running, and the campfire had burned down to coals. The night had gotten older. Only the moon had not. That image stays with me. The fire burned down. The moon did not move. This is KQWL 1620 AM, Cold Harbor Emergency Relay Network. The condition is now confirmed from 2 locations in the Pacific Basin and is awaiting international verification. The tides remain at the level recorded at 12:37 a.m. No advisory has been issued. The coordination call is ongoing. I will be here when it concludes. It is now 4:23 a.m. Pacific. KQWL 1620 AM, Emergency Desk. The coordination call has concluded, and I have received a summary. I need to go through it carefully because the language has moved. The summary confirms the following. The moon's orbital velocity has been measured at 0 by all reporting facilities. The condition has been confirmed from ground-based and satellite observation systems across the continental United States, Hawaii, and now, formally confirmed, Japan. I want to mark that. Japan is now confirmed. That is no longer preliminary. Multiple facilities across the Western Pacific have independently reported the same observation. The moon is stationary as viewed from every confirmed observation point. The summary introduces new language that I have not heard before tonight. It refers to the condition as gravitational arrest. I want to sit with that phrase. Gravitational arrest. Not positional discrepancy. Not sustained deviation. Arrest. That word means something has been stopped. Not that something appears different, but that a process has ceased. The summary further states that no causal mechanism has been identified, that no predictive model anticipated this event, and that the duration cannot be estimated. It states that response agencies should begin planning for what it calls extended static tidal conditions, and should not assume resumption within a defined time frame. I need to be precise about that last point. They are telling response agencies not to assume the moon will start moving again. They are not saying it will not. They are saying do not plan as though it will. That is a planning posture I have not seen applied to an astronomical event before. It is the language of something that might be permanent. The summary includes one recommendation. Coastal communities should be advised that tidal predictions are no longer operative, and that water levels should be monitored by direct observation rather than forecast models. I am told this recommendation has been communicated to county emergency management offices along the Oregon coast. No formal public advisory has been issued. The recommendation exists at the interagency level only. But I am relaying it to you because you are on this frequency, and because I believe you should know that the planning language has changed. It is now 4:36 a.m. Pacific. I want to relay an update from the tidal monitoring station, and then address something I am hearing from multiple callers. The monitoring station reports that as of 4:30 a.m., the divergence between predicted and observed water levels has reached 21 inches. The predicted tide has continued to rise on its model curve. The actual water has not moved. The station notes that this divergence is now outside any previously recorded anomaly in their 31 years of operation. They have formally suspended their predictive output and have switched to direct observation only reporting. That means they are no longer telling anyone what the tide will do. They are only saying what it is doing, which is nothing. I have also received, in the last 15 minutes, a cluster of calls from locations further from the coast. Inland, callers from Tillamook Valley, from Hebo, from the timber roads east of Highway 101. These callers are not reporting tidal observations. They are reporting that the moonlight has not changed, that shadows in fields, on barns, across gravel roads have been in the same position all night, that the quality of the night itself feels wrong. One caller from near Blaine described the light through a kitchen window as permanent. Another from south of Beaver described waking and knowing, without checking, that the moon was in the same place it had been when they fell asleep. I cannot verify subjective impressions, but I can note that the observation is no longer confined to coastal watchers and train operators. Ordinary people inland are noticing, and they are describing not just a visual anomaly, but a quality of experience. Something about the night being stuck. I do not have a framework for that. I am only relaying that the reports are consistent and repeating. It is now 4:51 a.m. Pacific. KQWL 1620 a.m. continuing. I have to address something I cannot yet confirm, but that I believe warrants mention. We are hearing from a caller who identifies themselves as an employee at a small regional airport south of the county line. This caller states that their facility received an operational bulletin approximately 30 minutes ago advising that certain satellite-dependent navigation systems may be experiencing degraded accuracy due to what the bulletin called gravitational reference instability. The caller states the bulletin recommended that pilots cross-check satellite navigation against ground-based systems until further notice. I want to be very careful here. I have not independently verified this bulletin. I do not have access to aviation communication channels. But if this report is accurate, it suggests that the moon's gravitational arrest is affecting systems beyond tidal monitoring. Satellite navigation systems use gravitational models to maintain positioning accuracy. If the gravitational field has changed in a way that the models do not account for, those systems will begin to drift. I am treating this as unconfirmed. But I want on the record because if we receive corroborating reports, the infrastructure implications expand considerably. The coordination desk has not issued any statement regarding aviation or satellite systems. I have asked. They responded that they are aware of the report and are seeking verification. That is all I have. A second institutional report has reached the desk from a wastewater treatment facility serving the coastal district. They state that their ocean outfall system, which discharges treated water during specific tidal windows, has missed its scheduled discharge cycle for the first time in operational history. The system is automated and tidal dependent. It has been waiting for a water level that has not arrived. The facility states they have approximately 11 hours of holding capacity before they need to implement emergency protocols. They are not in crisis, but they are on a clock now, and the clock is running against a tide that is not coming. I want to note the accumulation here. Stormwater systems approaching limits. Wastewater systems on a countdown. Navigation systems potentially degraded. None of these are emergencies yet. All of them become emergencies if the condition continues. And the coordination desk has just told response agencies not to assume resumption within a defined time frame. This is KQWL 1620 a.m., Cold Harbor Emergency Relay Network. It is 4:51 a.m. Pacific. The moon has not moved in 4 hours and 14 minutes. The condition is confirmed across the Pacific Basin and the continental United States. Official classification is gravitational arrest. No public advisory has been issued. The desk continues. It is now 5:12 a.m. Pacific. KQWL 1620 a.m. I have received two significant updates in rapid succession, and I want to handle them in order. First, the international scope has expanded again. The coordination desk has received confirmed reports from monitoring facilities in the United Kingdom, Germany, and India. All report the moon in a fixed position consistent with a single stationary point in lunar orbit. I want to be clear about what that means. The moon is not in different positions as seen from different countries. It is in one position, the same position, viewed from every point on Earth. The geometry of that is consistent only with the moon actually being in one fixed location, not an illusion, not a local atmospheric effect. The object itself has stopped. The coordination desk has now elevated their classification to what they are calling a confirmed global event. That is the first time the word global has appeared in their language. They have opened a continuous coordination channel with international partner agencies and have scheduled briefings at 2-hour intervals. I am told the next briefing is at 6 a.m. Pacific. Second, I have received the first report of what I would call a public behavior shift. The County Sheriff's Communication Desk has contacted us to report that they are receiving an increasing number of calls from residents who are awake and distressed. Not emergencies, not crimes. People calling to report that something is wrong with the sky. The Sheriff's Desk does not have information to give them. They have not been briefed on the situation. They are simply logging the calls and telling people there is no emergency, but the volume is increasing. The Sheriff's Desk reports 47 calls. Since 3 a.m. on a night that would normally see fewer than 5, people are waking up. They're looking outside, and they're calling someone because what they see does not match what should be there. I should also note that dawn should be approaching. Astronomical twilight for this date at this latitude begins at approximately 5:28 a.m. That is 16 minutes from now. I want to mark that because it raises a question I do not have an answer to. If the moon has stopped, what happens when daylight arrives? Does the sun's rising proceed normally? Does the sky brighten on schedule? We are about to find out. I will report what is observable from this location as it occurs. It is now 5:31 a.m. Pacific. KQWL 16:20 a.m. I can confirm that the eastern sky is showing the beginning of astronomical twilight. The first lightening of the horizon is occurring on schedule. The sun's motion appears unaffected. I want to state that clearly. The sun is behaving normally. The earth is rotating normally. Dawn is arriving. Only the moon has stopped. This creates a visual situation that I want to describe because I believe it will become significant as more people wake in the coming hour. The moon is still clearly visible in the western sky at its full night brightness and position. It has not faded. It has not lowered toward the horizon. It should, at this hour, be well into its western descent, approaching or below the trilene for observers at this latitude. Instead, it remains at the elevation occupied at 12:37 a.m. high, prominent, unmoved. As the sky brightens, the moon will remain visible. During a normal dawn, the moon fades and sets. Today it will not. It will hang in a brightening sky, fixed at an elevation inconsistent with the time of day. Anyone who looks up after sunrise will be able to see it, and it will be obviously visibly wrong. I am relaying this because within the next hour, this stops being something that night shift workers and insomniacs notice. This becomes something that everyone can see. The coordination desk has not yet issued public-facing language addressing the daylight visibility question. I have asked whether public communication is being prepared. I am told it is under discussion. That was the answer. Under discussion. A caller from Wheeler on the northern edge of the county reports that they are a school teacher and have been awake since the early calls. They want to know if schools will be open today. They want to know if there is any advisory that affects their decision. I cannot answer that. I do not have authority to issue advisories. I can only tell them and you that as of this moment no county or state office has issued any instruction regarding closures or schedule changes. The day is proceeding officially as normal. I find that notable. In approximately 90 minutes, children will be waking for school. Parents will be making coffee. They will look out windows and see the moon where it should not be, at an hour when it should not be there, at a height that contradicts the time on their clocks. And no one has told them anything. It is now 5:48 a.m. I want to update the infrastructure situation. The Utility Operations Coordinator has reported back. The stormwater outfall systems in 3 low-lying zones are now approaching their operational ceiling. Manual pump activation has been authorized and is beginning in the Wilson River floodplain district. This is the first active intervention required by the condition. The coordinator states that the pumps can manage current levels indefinitely, but that they were not designed for continuous operation. They were designed to supplement tidal flushing, not replace it. The wastewater facility has not updated. Their 11-hour clock is now at approximately 7 hours remaining. I will follow up. The tidal divergence figure has reached 29 inches. In 90 minutes, when morning high tide should arrive, the divergence will exceed 3 feet. At that point, the navigation channel at Garibaldi will be 3 feet shallower than any chart predicts. Vessels drawing more than 6 feet will not be able to enter or leave the harbor safely. I am told the Coast Guard is preparing a notice to mariners regarding the depth discrepancy. That notice has not yet been issued. When it is, it will be the first publicly visible official acknowledgement that something is wrong. The coordination desk has also shared one data point from the 5 a.m. international check-in that I want to relay. Monitoring stations on the Atlantic coast of Europe confirm that the moon is below their horizon, as it should be for their longitude and time of day. But their tidal monitoring shows the same condition. Static water levels, no cycling, zero change. The moon's gravitational arrest is affecting tides globally, regardless of whether the moon is visible overhead at a given location. That removes any remaining question about scope. This is planetary. This is KQWL 1620 AM, Cold Harbor Emergency Relay Network. It is 5:48 a.m. Pacific. The moon has not moved in 5 hours and 11 minutes. The condition is global. Dawn is arriving. The moon remains visible and stationary. Infrastructure systems are beginning to require manual intervention. No public advisory has been issued. The next coordination briefing is at 6 a.m. I will relay the outcome. It is now 6:14 a.m. Pacific. KQWL 1620 a.m. Emergency Desk. The 6 a.m. coordination briefing has concluded and the language has changed again. I want to go through this carefully. The briefing summary confirms global scope. All international partner agencies that have reported are observing the same condition, lunar orbital velocity 0, confirmed continuously for 5 hours and 37 minutes at the time of the briefing. Tidal arrest confirmed on every monitored coastline worldwide. No causal mechanism identified. No predictive timeline for resumption. The new language is this. The coordination desk is no longer using the term anomaly. They are now classifying this as a persistent gravitational event. I want to mark the shift. Anomaly suggests something aberrant that will resolve. Event suggests something that is happening present tense with its own duration. And persistent means it is not stopping. The briefing summary includes, for the first time, a section on secondary effects. I am going to relay these as listed. Tidal-dependent infrastructure worldwide is approaching or exceeding design limits. Navigation in tidal waters is degraded. Coastal ecosystems dependent on tidal cycling are experiencing stress indicators. Satellite positioning systems are showing measurable drift from predicted values. And this is the one that I want to handle carefully. The briefing notes that the moon's fixed gravitational vector is creating what they call an asymmetric loading condition on Earth's oceans. I do not fully understand what that means. I am told it means that because the pull is coming from one fixed direction without cycling, water is being held in place on one side of the planet and absent on the other. Not dramatically, not catastrophically, but measurably. And the longer the condition persists, the more pronounced the asymmetry becomes. I am passing that along as received. I do not have a timeline for when measurable becomes significant. The briefing did not provide one. The briefing also recommended, and this is new, that regional coordination offices prepare public-facing communication. I want to note that word. Recommended, not directed, not ordered. Recommended. The decision of whether and when to inform the public remains with regional authorities. As of this moment, no public statement has been issued in Oregon or, to my knowledge, anywhere else. It is now 6:28 a.m. Pacific. The sun has risen. I can confirm that the moon remains clearly visible in the western sky, high above the horizon, at an elevation that is inconsistent with the time of day. It is visually striking. Against the brightening blue sky, it is obvious. Anyone looking west can see it. I am receiving a very large volume of calls now. The desk has logged over 60 calls in the last 30 minutes. People are waking up, looking outside, seeing the moon where it should not be, and calling us. I cannot take these calls individually. I am going to summarize what we are hearing. The calls are consistent. People are alarmed. They're describing the moon as stuck, frozen, wrong. Many are asking whether this has been announced on other stations. Several report checking other radio frequencies and television channels and finding normal morning programming with no mention of the event. That is consistent with what I know. As of this moment, no public media outlet has reported on this condition. We are, as far as I can determine, the only station currently relaying information about it. I want to address that directly. I do not know why other outlets have not reported. I do not know if they have been instructed not to, or they are unaware, or if they are choosing to wait for official guidance. I only know that we are here, and we are relaying what has been verified. That is our function. We will continue. A caller from the school district office reports that they have received no guidance from the county or state regarding closures or modifications to the school day. Schools are opening as scheduled. Buses are running. The caller expresses concern about children arriving at school to see the moon in the wrong place with no explanation provided. I note this without comment. I do not have authority over school operations. I will say this. Within the hour, there will be no one left who has not noticed. The moon is visible in daylight. It is in the wrong position. It is obviously stationary. This is no longer something that requires instruments or attention to detect. This is something you can see from a parking lot, from a kitchen window, from a school playground, and there is no public explanation available. It is now 6:42 a.m. Pacific, KQWL 1620 a.m. I have received the first report of what I would characterize as an institutional conflict. A broadcast outlet serving the northern coast has apparently aired a brief segment acknowledging unusual calls from viewers regarding the moon's position and attributing it to, in the characterization relayed to me, an optical effect related to atmospheric conditions. They reportedly stated that no emergency exists and that the effect would resolve by midday. I want to be direct. That characterization is not consistent with the verified information available to this desk. The condition has been confirmed by satellite instrumentation, international monitoring facilities, and a national tracking body as orbital in nature, not atmospheric. It is not an optical effect. It has been active for over 6 hours. And no authority has provided any basis for claiming it will resolve by midday or any other time. I do not know why that outlet chose that characterization. I can only state that it contradicts the data available to me through the coordination channel. I am going to continue relaying what is verified. Listeners should be aware that not all sources are operating from the same information. The coordination desk has issued its first formal advisory. It is classified as an informational advisory, which is one tier above informational notice. It advises coastal communities to discontinue reliance on published tide tables and to monitor water levels by direct observation. It advises mariners to confirm channel depths before transit. It advises tidal infrastructure operators to implement manual overrides as needed. It does not explain why. It does not mention the moon. It does not use the word stopped or arrested or event. It simply states that tidal predictions are not operative until further notice. That is how they have chosen to enter the public record, not by explaining what is happening, by telling people predictions are wrong without saying why the predictions are wrong. This is KQWL 1620 AM, Cold Harbor Emergency Relay Network. It is 6:42 a.m. Pacific. The moon has not moved in 6 hours and 5 minutes. The sun has risen normally. The moon remains visible and stationary against the daytime sky. The first public advisory has been issued, addressing tidal prediction reliability only. The desk continues. It is now 7:15 a.m. Pacific. KQWL 1620 a.m. Emergency desk continuing. I want to provide a summary for anyone joining this frequency for the first time this morning, and I want to add one new detail that has been confirmed since our last update. At approximately 12:37 a.m. Pacific, the moon ceased its orbital transit. It stopped moving. This has been confirmed by ground-based observation, satellite telemetry, and international monitoring facilities across 4 continents. The moon's orbital velocity is 0. Tides worldwide have ceased cycling. The condition has been active for 6 hours and 38 minutes. No causal mechanism has been identified. No timeline for resumption has been provided. The moon is currently visible in the western sky in full daylight, and elevation inconsistent with the time of day. The new detail is this. The 7 a.m. data pull from the tidal monitoring station shows that the divergence between predicted and observed water levels has now reached 3 feet, 2 inches. This is the point at which the morning high tide should be cresting. The water is 3 feet below where every chart, every model, every published table says it should be. The Garibaldi navigation channel is now officially too shallow for most commercial fishing vessels to safely transit at the depths indicated on their charts. The Coast Guard has issued a notice to mariners closing the inner channel to vessels drawing more than 4 feet until depth can be verified by direct sounding. That is the first closure. It will not be the last if this continues. I have also received a report from the coordination desk that I want to relay with the weight it carries. The 6 a.m. briefing included a modeling projection now shared with regional authorities, estimating that if the condition persists for 24 hours, the asymmetric gravitational loading will produce a measurable permanent displacement of oceanic water toward the sublunar point. I need to parse that. It means water will begin to accumulate on the side of the Earth facing the moon and recede from the opposite side, not as a tidal wave, not suddenly, slowly, measurably, over hours and days. I am told the magnitude at 24 hours would be small, inches, but the models cannot project what happens at 48 hours, 72 hours, 1 week, because no model has ever needed to account for a stationary moon. The models do not have a framework for this. They are extrapolating from first principles, and the confidence intervals widen to uselessness beyond the first day. I am passing that along. I do not know what it means for this coastline specifically. I have asked. The answer I received is that Tillamook County faces generally west, which is currently away from the sublunar point, meaning water levels here may actually drop over time rather than rise. I do not know if that is better or worse. I suspect it is different kinds of worse depending on what you need the water to do. It is now 7:34 a.m. Pacific. KQWL 1620 a.m. The County Emergency Management Office has issued its first public statement. I am going to relay the substance. The statement acknowledges that tidal conditions along the Tillamook County coast are not matching published predictions. It advises residents to avoid tidal flats, as water levels may change without warning. It advises boaters to remain in port until further notice. It states that the county is in coordination with state and federal agencies regarding the cause, and that additional information will be provided when available. The statement does not mention the moon. It does not say the moon has stopped. It does not reference the 6.5 hours of confirmed gravitational arrest. It addresses only the tidal symptom, not the cause. I want to note that without editorializing too heavily, but I will say this. If you are standing outside right now and you look west, you can see the moon in the daytime sky at the wrong height, and the official statement from your county does not mention it. That is the gap between what is observable and what is being said. I cannot close that gap. I can only point at it. Multiple callers are now reporting that local morning news broadcasts have begun acknowledging the moon's visibility, but are describing it as unusual atmospheric clarity, allowing extended daytime lunar visibility. That characterization is, I should be clear, not supported by any information available to this desk. The moon is not more visible because of atmospheric conditions. It is visible because it is not set. It is not moved. It is still where it was at midnight. I should note that the other broadcast outlet I mentioned earlier, the one that attributed the event to an optical effect, has since gone silent on the topic. They have not retracted. They have simply stopped mentioning it. I do not know what that indicates. It is now 7:52 a.m. Pacific. I need to relay a report that represents, in my assessment, a significant escalation in secondary effects. The Coastal Hospital has provided an updated report. They state that emergency department volume is now approximately 300% of normal for this hour. Presentations include anxiety, panic attacks, vertigo, disorientation, and a condition they're describing as temporal confusion. Patients are reporting an inability to reconcile their internal sense of time with external cues. They feel that it should be night. Their bodies are responding as though it is still night. They are exhausted in a way that does not match the number of hours they have slept. The hospital notes that several patients have become agitated and have required sedation. They are requesting additional staffing through the county emergency mutual aid system. This is not, I want to be clear, a mass casualty event. No one is injured. No one is dying. But the hospital is being overwhelmed by people whose bodies are telling them something is wrong that their minds cannot name. I should also relay that the hospital asked the desk directly whether there is information they should be providing to patients. I told them what I am telling you. The moon has stopped. The tides have stopped. No one knows why. No one knows for how long. That is the entirety of what is known. The hospital's response to that information was silence on the line for several seconds, followed by an acknowledgement and disconnection. I do not know what they are telling patients now. This is KQWL 1620 AM, Cole Harbor Emergency Relay Network. It is 7:52 a.m. Pacific. The condition has been active for 7 hours and 15 minutes. The first channel closure has been issued. The hospital is at 300% volume. The county has issued a statement that does not mention the cause. The moon is visible. It has not moved. We are continuing. It is now 9:40 a.m. Pacific. KQWL 1620 a.m. Emergency Desk. I have been off frequency for approximately 1 hour due to a situation I need to describe. At 8:47 a.m., this station experienced a transmission interruption. Our broadcast signal dropped for approximately 14 seconds, resumed for 6 seconds, dropped again for 9 seconds, and then resumed and has been stable since. I am told by the station's technical staff that the interruption was not caused by equipment failure. The equipment logged continuous operation throughout. The signal was leaving the transmitter normally, but something between the transmitter and the antenna behaved in a way that the engineering staff cannot explain. I want to be careful with what I say next. The technical staff report that during the interruption, their monitoring equipment detected what they describe as a gravitational flexion in the transmission path. I do not know what that means in engineering terms. I asked them to explain. They stated that the signal appeared to bend, as though the medium it travels through had briefly changed density or shape. They compared it to the effect of heat shimmer on a road, but applied to radio propagation. They have never observed this before. They cannot attribute it to any weather condition, solar activity, or equipment state. I am relaying this because it is the first time the condition has touched the station directly. Until now, we have been reporting on something happening to the ocean, to the sky, to infrastructure. Now something has happened to our signal. I do not know if it is related. The timing is coincidental, and the technical staff believe it is consistent with gravitational irregularity affecting the propagation medium. I cannot verify that claim, but I want you to know it happened, and I want you to know the signal is back, and we are continuing. During the hour I was managing that situation, several significant developments occurred, and I need to relay them now. The 8 a.m. coordination briefing produced updated language. The condition is now classified as a confirmed persistent gravitational event of global scope. The word persistent has been formally added, and the coordination desk has issued guidance that all communications should reflect the global classification. Additionally, and this is important, the briefing introduced a new phrase I have not heard before. They are describing the moon state as gravitationally decoupled from orbital mechanics. I am told this means that the moon is no longer behaving as an orbiting body. It is stationary. It is still exerting gravitational influence, but it is not in orbit. It is simply there, fixed, as though placed. I want to note that characterization. Decoupled from orbital mechanics. That is not the language of a temporary malfunction. That is the language of a fundamental category change. The moon was an orbiting body. It is not anymore. It is something else now, a fixed point. It is now 9:58 a.m. Pacific, KQWL 1620 a.m. I need to relay a report that I have been trying to verify for the last 40 minutes, and that I now have sufficient confidence to share. A field monitoring unit operating on behalf of the State Geological Survey in the Tillamook area went silent at 8:22 a.m. This unit was conducting ground-based measurements of local gravitational variation, which I am told had shown small but detectable anomalies since approximately 5 a.m. The unit reported a sharp increase in their readings at 8:19 a.m., provided 3 seconds of what the coordination desk describes as anomalous data, and then ceased transmitting. The unit has not reestablished contact. Their equipment beacon is still active, indicating power and location, but no data or voice communication has been received in over 90 minutes. A second unit dispatched to their reported location has not yet arrived. I will update when they do. I want to be careful about what I infer from this. Equipment fails. Radios malfunction. There are many explanations that do not require anything extraordinary, but the timing, the fact that the silence coincided with an anomalous reading, and the fact that no contact had been reestablished makes this notable. It is the first time a field unit has gone dark during this event. I should also report that in the last hour, this desk has received reports from 3 other broadcast facilities on the Oregon coast describing transmission anomalies similar to what we experienced. Brief signal interruptions, unexplained propagation behavior, monitoring equipment logging normal output, but listeners reporting dropout. All 3 occurred between 8:40 and 9:10 a.m. All 3 lasted less than 30 seconds. All 3 are described by their respective engineering staff as unexplained. Something happened in that window. I do not know what. The coordination desk is aware and has requested that all broadcast facilities log any further anomalies with precise timing. That request, I should note, implies they are treating the broadcast interruptions as potentially related to the event. They have not said that explicitly, but the request itself says it. It is now 10:14 a.m. Pacific. I have an update on the field unit, and I have additional information from the coordination channel. The second unit dispatched to the first unit's location has arrived. They report finding the equipment intact, powered, and undamaged. The data logging device was recording. The radio appeared functional, but the first unit's personnel were not present. Their vehicle was on site. Their equipment was deployed. They were not there. I am going to pause here because I want to be clear about what I am not saying. I am not saying something happened to these people. I am not saying they were taken or harmed. I am saying that a field unit went silent during an anomalous reading, and when a second unit arrived, the personnel were not at their equipment. There are many possible explanations. They may have walked to a secondary location. They may have moved to get a better signal. I do not know, but the second unit reports that the area is open grassland with clear sight lines and that they can see no one in any direction. The coordination desk has been informed. They have asked the second unit to remain on site and continue attempting contact. They have not elevated this to a search and rescue classification. Not yet. I want you to hold that open loop. I will come back to it when I have more information. This is KQWL 1620 AM. It is 10:14 AM Pacific. The moon has not moved in 9 hours and 37 minutes. The condition is confirmed global. Our own signal was interrupted. A field unit is silent. The coordination desk has used the phrase gravitationally decoupled from orbital mechanics. We are continuing to broadcast, and we are continuing to relay verified information. The desk is here. It is now 11:45 a.m. Pacific. KQWL 1620 a.m. Emergency desk. I should correct one earlier assumption. When I reported the field unit's personnel as missing from their site, I implied that this might resolve simply. It is not. The second unit has conducted a full visual survey of the area and reports no sign of the 2-person team. Their personal effects, including bags and a thermos and a jacket, remain with the equipment. The vehicle is locked. There are no tracks leading away from the site in any direction. The coordination desk has now elevated this to an active search. I am told a helicopter resource has been requested. I do not want to speculate. I am only going to say that this is unresolved and that it occurred during a confirmed anomalous reading from their gravitational instruments. The last data point they transmitted, the one the coordination desk described as anomalous, showed a localized gravitational measurement that was, I am told, 17% above baseline. That is not a global figure. That was measured at that specific point. 17% above baseline at ground level. I am told that should not be possible from the moon's influence alone at any distance, under any configuration. Something else produced that reading. I do not know what. The desk does not know what. The coordination channel is not speculating publicly. I am relaying the data as received. It is now 12:07 p.m. Pacific. Midday, KQWL 1620 a.m. The moon remains visible in the western sky. It is approximately 38 degrees above the horizon, which is where it was at 12:37 a.m. It has not descended. It has not faded with the daylight. It is there in the blue sky, clearly visible, white and round and still. It looks permanent. I want to note how strange it is to use that word about something in the sky, but that is what it looks like. Permanent. The coordination desk has issued an updated advisory, and the language has moved again. The advisory states, and I am relaying this as closely as I can to how it was given to me, that the persistent gravitational event continues at stable intensity with no indication of resolution. It states that coastal and maritime operations should plan for indefinite static tidal conditions. It states that all systems dependent on gravitational cycling should transition to manual or alternative operational modes. And it includes a new sentence that I want to read carefully. It states that the event should not be characterized as harmless, and that response posture should reflect monitoring and adaptation rather than correction. I need to break that apart. They are no longer using the word harmless. They were not explicitly using it before, but its absence was implied by the low classification level. Now they are explicitly saying, do not call harmless. And they are saying the response is adaptation, not correction. You do not correct this. You adapt to it. That is the planning framework now. Not how do we fix it. How do we live with it? I have been at this desk for nearly 12 hours. The language started at calibration issue and is now at adaptation rather than correction. That arc, that erosion of confidence, is the story. The data has not changed. The moon has not moved. Only the words have moved, catching up slowly to a fact that was obvious to anyone standing outside at 1 in the morning. It is now 12:31 p.m. Pacific. KQWL 1620 AM, continuing. I want to relay a cluster of institutional reports that have arrived in the last hour because they paint a picture of what adaptation looks like in practice when no one was prepared for what they are adapting to. The wastewater treatment facility has reached its holding capacity threshold and has initiated emergency discharge protocols. This means they are releasing treated water into the ocean independent of tidal conditions. This is permitted under emergency operations but requires manual oversight and increases the risk of environmental exposure. They report that they can sustain this mode indefinitely but at reduced processing capacity. The stormwater system has been on continuous manual pump operation since early morning. The operations coordinator reports no failures, but notes that 2 of 7 pump stations are showing elevated temperature warnings consistent with extended continuous run times. They have requested backup equipment from the county. The school district closed at 11 a.m. I am told this decision was made at the superintendent level based on increasing student and staff distress, difficulty maintaining instructional focus, and a high volume of parent pickups already in progress. The district's communication cites only a general emergency advisory. It does not mention the moon. The coastal hospital has declared a surge condition and is diverting non-emergency cases to inland facilities. Their patient volume has not decreased since the morning peak. If anything, it has intensified. They report a new presentation pattern. They are calling chronic orientation failure. Patients who cannot stop feeling that it is the wrong time of day, whose circadian systems are responding to a moon that says it is midnight while the sun says it is noon. The conflict between those two signals is producing what the hospital describes as a kind of physiological argument within the body. Elevated cortisol, sleep hormone disruption, a constant low-grade fight or flight activation with no resolution. I do not have medical expertise, but I can tell you that these reports describe a population whose bodies are being told 2 incompatible things by the sky, and the conflict is making them ill, not dangerously, not lethally, but persistently, with no end in sight, because the condition causing shows no sign of changing. The moon is still there. The sun is moving. Both are visible. One is wrong. The body knows which one, even if the words have not arrived yet. This is KQWL 1620 AM, Cole Harbor Emergency Relay Network. It is 12:31 p.m. Pacific. The moon has not moved in 11 hours and 54 minutes. The condition is global, persistent, stable in intensity, and officially classified as not harmless. Adaptation is the framework. Correction is not on the table. The field unit remains missing. We are continuing. It is now 6:40 p.m. Pacific. This is KQWL 1620 AM, Cole Harbor Emergency Relay Network, Tillamook County Perimeter, the Perimeter Broadcast. If you are hearing this transmission for the first time, I will summarize what is known. At approximately 12:37 a.m. Pacific today, the moon ceased its orbital transit. It stopped. It has now been stationary for 18 hours and 3 minutes. The condition has been confirmed by every available ground-based and satellite observation system worldwide. Tidal cycling has ceased globally. The moon's orbital velocity is 0. No causal mechanism has been identified. No timeline for resumption has been provided. Official classification is persistent gravitational event of global scope. Response framework is adaptation and monitoring, not correction. The moon is currently visible in the western sky at the same elevation it occupied at 12:37 a.m. It did not set today. It remained in the sky through the full daylight period and is now visible again as evening arrives, in the same position, as though it never moved, because it did not. The sunset occurred normally at 9:04 p.m. seasonal time. The sky is darkening. The moon is brightening against that darkness. It is, for all practical purposes, returning to the same visual state it was in when the event began, except that now everyone has seen it. Everyone knows. I have new information from the evening coordination briefing that I need to relay. The coordination desk has issued what they are calling permanent operational guidance. I want to note that word, permanent. This is the first time that word has appeared in official documentation related to this event. The guidance states that all tile-dependent systems should complete transition to manual or gravity-independent operations within 48 hours. It states that published tide tables are permanently suspended for all United States coastlines. It states that navigational charts should be annotated to reflect observed depths only, with no tidal correction applied. And it states that the event classification has been updated from persistent to what they are now calling stable at confirmed intensity. Stable at confirmed intensity, not ongoing, not persisting. Stable, that word means it is not changing. It is not fluctuating. It is not showing any indication of reversing. It has settled into its condition like a temperature reaching equilibrium. The moon has stopped and the stopping is stable. I should also report that the guidance includes a sentence regarding public communication. It instructs regional offices to prepare messaging that acknowledges the event directly, uses clear non-technical language, and does not imply a timeline for resolution. I am told that messaging is being drafted tonight and will be released tomorrow morning. By then it will have been approximately 30 hours since the event began, and approximately 24 hours since anyone could see it simply by looking up. It is now 7:12 p.m. Pacific, KQWL 16:20 a.m. I want to update several open items and relay what the evening looks like from the information available to me. The missing field unit. The helicopter search was conducted this afternoon over a 12 square mile area centered on the equipment site. No sign of the two personnel was found. Their vehicle remains on site. Their equipment continues to log data. The data stream, I am told, returned to baseline values approximately 40 minutes after their last communication and has remained at baseline since. Whatever produced a 17% spike was brief. The people who measured it are gone. The search has been suspended until morning due to light conditions. I do not expect resolution tonight. The hospital has requested and received mutual aid staffing from 2 inland facilities. Their surge condition continues. They report that the orientation failure presentations have not abated and that they are now seeing a secondary pattern they describe as grief-like effect without identifiable loss. Patients who are not anxious, not disoriented, but profoundly sad, who describe feeling that something is over. The hospital notes that these patients are generally calm, cooperative, and clear-minded. They are simply grieving. When asked what they are grieving, the consistent answer is that they do not know. I am going to relay that without analysis. I do not know what it means, but it is repeating, and the hospital has flagged it as a pattern. The utility systems continue on manual operation. No failures to report. The wastewater facility has stabilized at emergency discharge mode. The stormwater pumps are holding. One additional pump station has been brought online to replace a unit that overheated and is cooling. The infrastructure is managing. It is not elegant and it is not designed for this, but it is managing. It is now 7:38 p.m. Pacific. I have received a report from the coordination desk that I want to relay because it addresses something I have been thinking about and that I suspect you've been thinking about as well. The coordination desk has received a preliminary assessment from a scientific advisory group that has been convened to study the event. I am told this group includes representatives from relevant fields across multiple countries. Their preliminary assessment, provided to the coordination desk at approximately 5 p.m. Pacific, states the following. The moon appears to be in a state of gravitational equilibrium inconsistent with any known physical model. Its position is fixed relative to Earth's surface, meaning it is rotating with the Earth rather than orbiting independently. It is behaving as though rigidly attached to a point above the planet. The group states that this should not be physically possible. They state that no force they can identify or theorize could produce this effect. And they state that the moon shows no structural distress, no temperature variation, no change in reflectivity or surface character. It simply stopped, and it appears stable in its stop state. The assessment includes one sentence that the coordination desk asked me not to relay. I am going to relay it anyway because I believe it is the most important sentence produced today. The sentence states that the event may not have a mechanistic explanation within current physical understanding, and that the possibility of a non-mechanistic cause cannot be excluded by available evidence. I do not know what a non-mechanistic cause means. I suspect the scientists who wrote that sentence are not certain either, but they wrote it. They put it in an official assessment, and someone at the coordination desk did not want to share it, which tells me it matters. This is KQWL 1620 AM. It is 7:38 p.m. Pacific. 18 hours since this began. The language has reached stable. The scientists have reached non-mechanistic cause cannot be excluded. The moon has not moved. We are continuing. It is now 11:55 p.m. Pacific. KQWL 1620 AM. Cold Harbor Emergency Relay Network. The overnight desk continuing. I want to mark this moment because of what it represents. In approximately 42 minutes, we will reach the 24-hour point. One full day since the moon stopped. One full rotation of the Earth beneath a moon that did not move. And as the night has deepened, the sky looks almost normal. The moon is up, bright, in the position you might expect if you did not know what time it was, if you did not know that it had been there at that height since last night. The wrongness has become invisible to a casual glance. You would have to know to see it. I find that significant. The most extraordinary event in recorded observational history. And by the second night, you might not notice it if no one told you. The sky has not changed from the sky. It just does not move the way it should. The error is in the motion, not the appearance. And we are so rarely watching for motion. The coordination desk has released a nighttime update. It is brief. The condition remains stable at confirmed intensity. No change in any measure parameter. The moon's position has not varied by any detectable amount in 23 hours and 18 minutes. Tidal levels at all monitored points worldwide remain at the values recorded at the time of onset. The asymmetric water displacement model has been updated. At 24 hours, the predicted displacement is 7 inches at maximum deviation points, which are located in the open Pacific and Indian Oceans. Coastal effects are estimated at 2 to 4 inches and may take days to manifest visibly. I should note that 2 to 4 inches does not sound like much, but it is a permanent displacement, not a wave that recedes. A new resting point. The water moves there and stays, and if the condition persists for weeks, the model suggests the displacement grows, slowly, steadily, toward a new equilibrium that no one can fully predict because no one has ever needed to predict it before. I have received one additional report from this evening that I want to relay before we reach the 24-hour mark. A caller from south of Cape Lookout, near Sand Lake, reports observing something that I want to relay despite being unable to verify it. The caller states that they have been sitting outside watching the moon since sunset. They state that at approximately 11:30 p.m., they observed a faint shimmer or distortion around the moon's visible disk, lasting approximately 4 seconds, and then ceasing. They describe it as resembling heat distortion, but in a tight ring around the moon's edge. They state it did not recur. I have no corroborating reports. No monitoring system has reported any visual change in the moon's appearance. This may be an atmospheric artifact, fatigue-related perception, or any number of ordinary explanations. But I am noting it on this frequency because we noted everything else tonight, and because I do not want to be the one who decided something did not matter. It is now 12:37 a.m. Pacific. 24 hours exactly. This is KQWL 1620 AM. The moon has been stationary for 24 hours. I do not have new language from a coordination desk for this milestone. I am told they are not marking it formally. The condition is continuous. It does not have edges or milestones in their framework. It simply is stable, ongoing, at full intensity. I will tell you what I know at this mark. The moon has not moved. The tides have not cycled. Globally, every coastline is at a static water level. Infrastructure is on manual operation. Navigation channels are unreliable. Coastal ecosystems are under stress from the absence of tidal flushing. A field team is missing. The hospital continues at surge capacity. The scientific advisory group cannot explain the event within known physics. The public has been told almost nothing directly, and the official response posture is adaptation. The world is being asked to proceed as though this is now normal, as though a moon that does not move is simply a feature of the sky rather than an impossibility. I do not know how long that framing holds. I do not know if it matters whether it holds. The moon is not waiting for our frameworks to catch up. It is now 1:14 a.m. Pacific. The second night, 24 hours and 37 minutes. I want to relay one final update from the coordination desk before I set the pattern for the remainder of this broadcast. The coordination desk has informed all relay stations that effective immediately, the classification of the event is being simplified. It will no longer be referred to as a persistent gravitational event of global scope. The new classification is gravitational cessation, stable. 2 words in a descriptor. Gravitational cessation. That is what they're calling it now. Not an anomaly, not an event, a cessation. Something that was happening that is no longer happening. Gravity was cycling. Now it is not. Cessation. I am told this language will be used in the public communication being released tomorrow morning. The public will be told that a gravitational cessation has occurred, that it is stable, that authorities are monitoring, and that no immediate threat to public safety exists. They will be advised to follow operational guidance regarding tidal-dependent systems and to report any unusual observations to local emergency management. I want to note what that communication does not include. It does not include a timeline. It does not include an explanation. It does not include the word temporary. It does not include any suggestion that this will end. This is KQWL 1620 AM. 1 day and counting. The condition is stable. The language has reached its destination. We are continuing. It is now 6 a.m. Pacific. Second day. Approximately 29 hours and 23 minutes since onset. This is KQWL 1620 AM. Cole Harbor Emergency Relay Network. Tillamook County Perimeter. The Perimeter Broadcast. I want to relay the state of things at this hour because dawn is arriving for the second time and the moon is still there. It did not set overnight. It hung in the same position through the entire second night. The stars moved around it. Orion rose and tracked west. The planets continued their paths. Everything else in the sky moved. The moon did not. It is still at 38 degrees above the western horizon. It is brightening now against the pre-dawn blue, just as it did yesterday, just as it will do tomorrow if nothing changes. And there is no indication that anything will change. The public communication was released 20 minutes ago. It has been distributed to all broadcast outlets, published on county and state emergency portals, and read on the major morning frequencies. The communication uses a language I described last night. Gravitational cessation, stable. No immediate threat. Follow operational guidance. Monitor and report. That is the entirety of what the public is being told after 29 hours. I want to note that people are responding to this communication with something that is not panic and is not calm. A caller from Tillamook describes it as a kind of settled dread. People are going about morning routines. Coffee is being made. Cars are being started. But everyone is looking west. Everyone is checking that it is still there, still unmoving, and then looking away and continuing with what they were doing. The caller describes it as a feeling of living in a house where something is broken that no one knows how to fix, so everyone simply walks around it. I think that is the most accurate description I have heard. The utility systems report no new failures overnight. The stormwater pumps are on rotation to manage heat load. The The wastewater facility has stabilized its emergency discharge mode. The navigation channel at Garibaldi remains closed to deep draft vessels. The Coast Guard is conducting manual soundings on a 12-hour cycle and publishing observed depths only. Fishermen are being advised to work with direct observation and not to rely on any published chart. The hospital reports a slow decrease in new presentations overnight, but no decrease in existing patient load. They state that many patients are reluctant to be discharged because they feel safer in a medical setting. The grief effect pattern continues. The orientation failure pattern is diminishing slightly as patient circadian systems appear to be resetting to solar cues rather than lunar ones. The body is adapting, slowly, imperfectly, but adapting. The search for the missing field unit personnel resumes at first light. I will report the outcome. It is now 6:34 a.m. Pacific. KQWL 16, 20 a.m. I want to close this broadcast cycle with something that is not an update, but an observation. And I want to be transparent that this is the desk speaking rather than relaying. I have been on this frequency for 28 hours. In that time, I have relayed 306 individual pieces of information from official sources, institutional contacts, and caller reports. I have watched the language move from calibration issue to gravitational cessation. I have reported the closure of a navigation channel, the overload of a hospital, the disappearance of a field team, the interruption of our own signal, and the failure of the scientific community to explain what has happened within the bounds of known physics. And the moon has not moved. Through all of that, through all of those words, it has not moved by any detectable amount. It is exactly where it was. The language has traveled an enormous distance. The moon has traveled none. I find that worth noting. I do not know what happens next. The coordination desk has not provided further scheduled briefings beyond a standing daily update at noon. The event is being managed now, not responded to. The crisis has stabilized into a condition. The extraordinary has achieved a kind of bureaucratic normality. There are forms for it now, protocols, duty rotations. The moon is still wrong, but the systems around us have decided to continue, and so we continue with them. The stormwater pumps run. The hospital sees patients. The Coast Guard sounds a channel. And this desk relays what is verified. I am told I will be relieved at 8 a.m. Another shift will take this desk and this frequency and will continue. The broadcast does not stop. The relay does not stop. Whoever sits here next will look at the same moon in the same position and will tell you what they are told by the same agencies using the same classification. Gravitational cessation. Stable. Monitor and adapt. The condition does not resolve. It does not worsen. It does not explain itself. It holds. If you are just waking, look west. It is there. It will be there tomorrow. Remain within the perimeter. This is KQWL 1620 AM, Cole Harbor Emergency Relay Network, Tillamook County Perimeter. Emergency conditions are ongoing. The broadcast continues.